Went to
You
dinner
know
with
a
that guy.
moon landing denier?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know you know Alex Jones.
I used to be a moon landing denier. I used to believe totally that we never went to the moon because there was a documentary that came on Fox. Yes, trust me.
No,
Fox,
I didn't Google you hard enough before I...
Saying that, the Earth is hollow. There's dinosaurs inside of it, I'm sure. It's very similar to saying I don't think people landed on the moon. But you know what? I don't think people landed on the moon. Well, this is my take on it. I am not saying that I have any information that anybody else doesn't have. I'm not saying that I know that we didn't land on the moon. I'm not saying that I know that everyone's a liar. I'm not saying that it was a total hoax. All I'm saying is when I look at all of it, when I look at the photographic evidence, or I look at the fact that we haven't been back since 1972, when I look at the fact that no humans except the Apollo astronauts have ever gone through the Van Allen radiation belt, the fact that no one's even done a flyby around the moon since then, it seems weird to me. When I look at the press conference and I see Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins nervous and weird and obviously like being deceptive after they came back, I go, what is that? I look at all that stuff. When I look at the video footage that Bart Sibrel character, who's clearly out of his mind, for sure. And so is that Renee guy. So are a lot of those guys. But sometimes, occasionally, someone who's clearly out of their mind has a point. If you can sift through all their BS and look at all the crap that they say and run it through a filter, every now and then they'll say something, oh, well, this guy's wrong about almost everything, but is he wrong about that? Now, when I look at that video and some of the video that Sibrel has of them faking the distance between the Earth and the moon when they're shooting the moon, or the Earth rather, through a circular window in the lunar module, and they have the windows blacked out. They're pretending that it's deep space. They're saying that they're 130,000 miles out, and then you see them pull the window curtains down, or the shade, whatever they have covering up with the windows, and you see that they're actually in near-Earth orbit. That makes me curious. When I look at the photographs and I see intersecting shadows. Now, I'm no photographic expert. I don't know anything about the moon, really, except stuff that I've read on the internet. I'm no scientist. But when I see intersecting shadows that seem to show some sort of a different light source, or more than one light source, it looks odd to me. When I see that those crosshairs aren't over all the images, it looks cut and cropped to me. When I look at some of the photographs of the moon, I have this gigantic coffee table book, and it's all, a NASA book, and it's beautiful pictures of the moon and all these different photographs. Well, when I look at some of them, they look obviously fake. They look cut and cropped. And I'm not saying I know they are. I'm not saying I have any special information, but I'm an open-minded person, and when I look at it, I say, look, I know I sound like a retard. I know I sound like a crackpot. I know saying that, the Earth is hollow, there's dinosaurs inside of it, I'm sure. It's very similar to saying I don't think people landed on the moon. But you know what? I don't think people landed on the moon.
And if you believe in NASA, bro, there's some videos of guys jumping around on the moon.
Yeah.
The problem with the videos of people on the moon is that there are videos that look 100% fake. Where guys fall forward and it looks like they get yanked up by wires. There's a lot of video that looks fake as fuck. I don't know if it's fake. I don't know if it just looks fake because it's 1/6 the Earth's gravity, and we don't know what that really looks like until you see it play out. But there's some videos of guys falling down face first and getting yanked back up. It looks like they yanked by cords.
Been promising a return to the moon from George Sr. to George Jr. I don't think Clinton ever promised it, but let me read to you an interesting quote that Clinton said. This is from his book. This is page 156 of his book, My Life. And he says, just a month before, he's talking about a conversation that he had with someone a month after the Apollo 11 landing. He says, just a month before, Apollo 11 astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong left their colleague Michael Collins aboard Spaceship Columbia and walked on the moon, beating by 5 months President Kennedy's goal of putting a man on the moon before the decade was out. The old carpenter asked me if I really believed it happened. I said, sure, I saw it on television. He disagreed. He said he didn't believe it for a minute that them television fellers could make things look real that weren't. Back then, I thought he was a crank. During my 8 years in Washington, I saw some things on TV that made me wonder if he wasn't ahead of his time. Isn't that an odd thing to say for a guy who was the president, a two-term president of the United States of America? That's a weird thing to say. To even imply, even hint that possibly we didn't go to the moon.
Werner von Braun went to Antarctica in 1967 in the height of the moon race and collected moon rocks from Antarctica. Isn't that true? Like hundreds of pounds. There's photographs of him. There's videos of him there. There's moon rocks that they brought back. There's video of them carrying stuff back. He went in 1967, 2 years before Apollo. Not only that, he was a Nazi. A huge, evil Nazi war criminal who, by the way, the Simon Wiesenthal Center said would be prosecuted for crimes against humanity if he was alive today, for sure.
He worked for the Nazis. I don't think he was a Nazi. That's a whole
Werner von Braun
story.
ran a rocket factory where they hung the 5 slowest workers a day in front of the rocket factory. But isn't that weird? Doesn't that seem weird to you? That first of all, they would lie to the public and they have this evil Nazi running the United States of America's space program. And 2 years before we go to Apollo 11, 2 years before that, this guy's in Antarctica collecting rocks from the moon.
Well, what does his being a Nazi have to do with anything?
Well, they're lying, first of all. They're bringing back this evil criminal from Germany, and they're having him work for America. They're slicking his hair back and making him look nice in a suit, and this guy's an evil piece of crap.
It was never really hidden that he was a Nazi. I think it was downplayed because he worked for
come on, man. They did not admit that Werner von Braun was a Nazi.
I'm not going to say he was a Nazi. I know he worked for the Nazis at Tina Mundi.
You denied it.
I denied what?
You denied that he was a Nazi.
When he first said Nazi, you denied it. So you didn't say, you said no one denied it.
I don't mean to say that he's not a Nazi or is a Nazi. I'm saying that I don't know if he was a Nazi.
Well, I'm saying he's a Nazi.
Nazis for sure.
If you know that they had a gigantic set that was a duplicate of the surface of the moon that they were practicing on, and they were taking all these videos and they were taking all these photographs, there's photographs of these guys on cranes. There's photographs of the LEM dangling from a crane. There's photographs of these guys like simulated low moon gravity where they had harnesses on and they're bouncing around on wires. There's all these photographs of this setup that they had. Now, if they were filming this setup and pretending, and there's also absolute proof that there was a satellite in orbit, and this satellite in orbit was beaming back information. They were sending it to practice what they were going to receive from the guys on the moon. Now, if they already had all this video in place, they already had all these simulation footages, and you're talking about some grainy, low-resolution stuff, that's all we have access to. How many people really did have to know? I don't know. But I think a few. I mean, it would have to be a couple dozen. It would have to be the people at the very top. Would they be able to keep their mouth shut? I don't know. I go back and forth on what people are capable of, and then I go back and forth on what people are capable of in government. Look, there's got to be a ton of people at the very top of the CFR, at the very top of the world banking, that know what's going on with globalization, that know what's going on with, the push by these banks for one gigantic global government so they can control everything. I mean, that's an absolute fact that that's all going on right now. How many people know about that? How many people are blowing the whistle? Very few. So if they can keep their mouth shut about that, they can keep their mouth shut about anything. If it's just a few dozen people, I don't know. I don't know how many people it is. And these people would think that it would be a patriotic thing to do. You're talking about the height of the Cold War. You're talking about the Red Scare. We're afraid of Russia. There was this big thing. We want to show technological superiority over the Russians, over the Soviets. So it's possible that they would do this and think that they were being patriotic doing it.